CA Exam Series. E-Learning. This is Sarah. I am gonna teach you GST classes. Welcome to GST Animation Lectures, innovative and student-friendly. CA Exam Series. Your success begins here. Every supplier shall be liable to be registered under the Act in the state from which he makes a taxable supply of goods or services or both. Registration is required if his aggregate turnover in a financial year exceeds 20 lakhs. This threshold limit will be 10 lakhs if a taxable person conducts his business in any of the special category states as specified in subclause G of Clause 4 of Article 279A of the Constitution. Turnover will be counted for a PAN computed on all India basis. Threshold exemption is not state-wise. A person having multiple business verticals, as defined in Section 218, in one state may obtain separate registrations for each of the business vertical, subject to prescribed conditions. Aggregate turnover includes taxable supplies, exempt supplies, exports. Interstate supplies of persons having the same PAN be computed on all India basis. Outward supplies taxable under reverse charge would continue to be part of the aggregate turnover of the supplier of such supplies. Categories of persons who shall be required to be registered under this Act irrespective of the threshold. Notwithstanding anything discussed in the paragraph above, the following categories of persons shall get registered compulsorily under this Act. Persons making any interstate taxable supply. Casual taxable persons making taxable supply. Persons who are required to pay tax under reverse charge. Persons who are required to pay tax under subsection 5 of Section 9, Electronic Commerce Operator. Non-resident taxable persons making taxable supply. Persons who are required to deduct tax under Section 51, Tax Deduction at Source. Persons who supply goods or services or both on behalf of other registered taxable persons whether as an agent or otherwise. Input service distributor. Persons who supply goods and or services, other than supplies specified under subsection 5 of Section 9, through such electronic commerce operator who is required to collect tax at source under Section 52. Every electronic commerce operator. Every person supplying online information and database access or retrieval services from a place outside India to a person in India, other than a registered taxable person, and such other person or class of persons as may be notified by the central government or a state government on the recommendations of the Council. Voluntary registration and UN. Person, though not liable to be registered under Section 22, may get himself registered voluntarily, and once registered all provisions of this Act shall apply to such person. Unique Identification Number, UIN. Unique Identification Number, UIN, is a special class of GST registration for foreign diplomatic missions and embassies which are not liable to taxes in the Indian territory. Any amount of tax, direct or indirect, collected from such bodies is refunded back to them. Persons not liable for registration. 1. The following persons shall not be liable to registration, namely: A. Any person engaged exclusively in the business of supplying goods or services or both that are not liable to tax or wholly exempt from tax under this Act or under the Integrated Goods and Services Tax Act. Example, person trading in children's drawing books. B. An agriculturist, to the extent of supply of produce out of cultivation of land. 2. The government may, on the recommendations of the Council, by notification, specify the category of persons who may be exempted from obtaining registration under this Act. Application Procedure. 1. Log on to the GST portal. 2. Fill up Form Part A of Form GST Reg 01, PAN, mobile and email. 3. PAN validated online by Common Portal from CBDT database. Mobile no and email verified through OTP sent through it. 4. Temporary Reference Number, TRN, is generated and communicated to the applicant on their validated mobile number and email address. 5. Access and fill in the Form Part B along with specified documents using the received number. 6. On receipt of such application, an acknowledgement in the prescribed form shall be issued to the applicant electronically. 7. Application forwarded to GST officer and he starts verifying the application. After 3 working days, officer approves your GST application. Final Certificate of Registration GST Reg 06. Officer asks for more details in Form GST Reg 03, within 7 working days. Produce the documents along with Form GST Reg 04. The time limit for application is within 30 days. For persons other than casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person, and casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person shall have to obtain the registration at least 5 days prior to the commencement. Single registration will be granted from one state or union territory, and in case of persons having business across different states, then multiple registrations are granted. Even in a single state, multiple registrations are possible wherever a person has multiple business verticals. Special Economic Zone unit or Special Economic Zone developer shall make a separate application for registration as a business vertical distinct from its other units located outside the Special Economic Zone. Every person who is liable to take a registration or wants to obtain voluntary registration shall have a permanent account number, PAN. Every person required to deduct tax under Section 51 may have, in lieu of a permanent account number, a tax deduction and collection account number, TAN. A non-resident taxable person can obtain registration on the basis of any other document as may be prescribed. Deemed registration. The grant of registration or the unique identity number under the State Goods and Services Tax Act or the Union Territory Goods and Services Tax Act shall be deemed to be a grant of registration or the unique identity number under this Act, subject to the condition that the application for registration or the unique identity number has not been rejected under this Act within the time specified in subsection 10 of Section 25. 2. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 10 of Section 25, any rejection of application for registration or the unique identity number under the State Goods and Services Tax Act or the Union Territory Goods and Services Tax Act shall be deemed to be a rejection of application for registration under this Act. Certificate of Registration. Nature of registration. A. The registration in GST is PAN-based and state-specific. B. One registration per state UT. C. However, a business entity having separate business verticals in a state may obtain separate registration for each of its business verticals. D. GST identification number called GSTIN, a 15-digit number and a certificate of registration incorporating therein. This GSTIN is made available to the applicant on the GSTN Common Portal. E. Registration under GST is not tax-specific, that is single registration for all the taxes, that is CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST and cesses. Casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. The certificate of registration issued to a casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person shall be valid for a period specified in the application for registration or 90 days from the effective date of registration, whichever is earlier, extendable by proper officer for further period of maximum 90 days at the request of taxable person. A casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person while seeking registration shall make an advance deposit of tax in an amount equivalent to the estimated tax liability. Where any extension of time is sought, such taxable person shall deposit an additional amount of tax equal to the estimated tax liability for the period for which the extension is sought. Such deposit shall be credited to the electronic cash ledger of and utilized in the manner provided under Section 44, Payment of Tax, Interest, Penalty and Other Amounts, of the Act. The nature of the activity carried out by a casual taxable person and non-resident person are temporary as compared to a regular taxable person. Additional safeguards have been placed to ensure that the registration is granted for a limited period and the tax liability is recovered in advance. Amendment of registration. Except for the changes in some core information in the registration application, a taxable person shall be able to make amendments without requiring any specific approval from the tax authority. In case the change is for legal name of the business, or the state of place of business or additional place of business, the taxable person will apply for amendment within 15 days of the event necessitating the change. The proper officer, then, will approve the amendment within the next 15 days. For other changes like the name of day-to-day functionaries, email IDs, mobile numbers etc., no approval of the proper officer is required, and the amendment can be effected by the taxable person on his own on the Common Portal. We hope this video helped you in gaining knowledge. See you soon with another video. This is Sarah, signing off.